Starring, amongst others, George McKay, Anya Taylor-Joy, Charlie Heaton, Mia Goth, Matthew Stagg, Kyle Soller, Nicola Harrison and Tom Fisher. It's a lot to read off, but everybody in this film kind of does have an important role to play. Written and directed by Sergio G. Sanchez. This is my review for The Secret of Marrowbone, or just Marrowbone, as I think it's called places. I've really struggled to find out what the actual proper name for this film was. It's called The Secret of Marrowbone here, but all the posters just say Marrowbone, and yeah, I got into a muddle. So, The Secret of Marrowbone was billed as a horror movie. The trailers made it seem like a very jump scare heavy horror, and that's the kind of film that I went in expecting to see, but I have to say I think the marketing behind this was a little bit misleading, because there are horror elements involved here, but it's much more at its core a mystery than it is a horror. But let's get on to the plot first. So, the Marrowbone family have relocated from the UK over to America. They are hiding from something dark in their past, or someone dark in their past. And they've come over here for a fresh start, a chance to escape, and a chance to try and put all that behind them. Shortly after arriving, they befriend a young girl called Ali, and then their mother, who has been fighting an illness for quite some time, passes away. She makes their oldest son, Jack, promise that he will keep this family together, and he will keep the fact that she's died hidden until he turns 21 and can legally take care of this family. But it isn't long before their past starts catching up with them in creepy and mysterious ways. So as I say, I was expecting this to be a horror, and it really isn't at all. There are moments in The Secret of Marrowbone, that are scary. So there are scary moments and there are tense moments, but I think when it comes to jump scares and when it comes to the actual moments that had me feeling uneasy, there were only about, I think, 3 or 4 times where that occurred. The rest of it is very much a slow burn mystery. It's trying to unravel what the secrets are, what they're running from, who they're running from, and what's plaguing them now, what's scaring them now, because they believe that there's a ghost in this house. And it's trying to find out that, is there a ghost? And if so, whose ghost is it? And there's lots of different mysteries sort of draped throughout this. And it very much is a slow burn. The first hour or so of this movie, it takes its time to get going. And it's only, I think, due to how good the cast is, and we'll get on to them in a second, but this is a very strong cast, that it doesn't really that much feel like it drags. There are moments, there are times where it's, can we get on with it now? But for the most part, the cast are so good here that they keep your attention. Particularly the lead here, George McKay, who does an incredible job with some really, really difficult at times material. There isn't really anybody in this cast who lets the side down. Anya Taylor-Joy is really making a name for herself now when it comes to horrors, when it comes to horror movies and ghost stories. She was brilliant in Split. She was amazing in Witch, or The Witch. So if you're going to cast somebody in a movie like this, it should be somebody like her, somebody who knows what they're doing. And she, interestingly enough, isn't a huge part of the supernatural side of things. But just having her in there, just having an actress as accomplished as her, really helps things out. But as I say, the rest of the cast are great too. George McKay, who I just mentioned, is the lead here, and he does an incredible job, as does everybody else in this family. Charlie Heaton, you know him from Stranger Things, he's not really the rebellious, but he's the family member with the chip on his shoulder. So he's the one that gets angry, and the actor is very good at doing that sort of thing, and he is again here. Mia Goth is amazing as Jane, and then you have Matthew Stagg as young Sam, and I think we're at the point now where we don't have to comment on how good a child actor is, because there's so many times in films in the past where we've had a child actor and they've been incredibly twee and incredibly annoying. But with Stranger Things, with all of these films that are showcasing how great young talent is, it's kind of feeling redundant to say now, because there are so many great young actors coming through and making an impression on the screen. And Matthew Stagg is one of them. The character of Sam, much like everybody else, he gets some very, very dark material to work with, and he has to be very, very scared, and it's sometimes difficult for a young actor to convey being scared in a natural way, in a realistic way, but he absolutely nails it. I'm just looking now, and he doesn't even have a Wikipedia page yet, but this kid can go far if it's based on this performance alone, because he does really well. So while I say this isn't so much of a horror and it's more a mystery, it is still creepy throughout, and that's largely down to its setting. The house that they've chosen here, I'm assuming it was just chosen, it may have been built, not really sure, but the house that they've chosen as the setting for the Marrowbone house is perfect for this kind of film. It's old, the floorboards creak, wind blows through the window and makes that horrible creepy wind sound. It's the perfect setting for a movie in this time period, which is the 60s. and with supernatural elements at play. The house is as much of a character here as the characters themselves are. And for me, this story does go about in an interesting way. I've heard that it may be a bit predictable, and I guess this might be a bit of a spoiler, but it's a bit predictable if you've seen The Orphanage, is what I've heard. I haven't seen The Orphanage. It's a film I've always wanted to watch, and I believe it's the same director, I think it is. Or this director had some involvement in The Orphanage, but I've never watched it. It's one I've always wanted to see. So the ending of this, I figured out what was going on just before we were shown it. Which for me means it wasn't predictable, but I'm imagining there are a lot of people who would find it to be a bit predictable. Some of the reviews I read about the film said that they saw the ending coming a mile off, but me personally, I didn't. But that could be because I haven't yet seen The Orphanage, but now I do want to go and watch that, and I wonder if I'm going to find that film predictable because I've seen this one. But yeah, The Orphanage has just jumped quite high up on my list of films I want to watch now. So while I think The Secret of Marrowbone is a good film, it's not perfect. As I say, the pace of this thing could do with a bit of a kick up the backside, particularly in that first hour. It spends a lot of time, arguably too much time, setting the scene. I'd much rather we got into the actual meat of the plot a lot sooner than we did, and there's a lot of tangents that the movie goes off that it doesn't feel it need to. Kyle Soler's character, Tom, he serves a purpose, but there's a lot of time spent with him that I felt we could have spent back at the house. We could have spent back with these family, learning more about them and sort of giving us a little bit more information rather than cutting back to him. Because while his plot does interlink with what's going on with his family, and the two plots do dovetail quite well towards the end, it does feel like it's an unnecessary break from the actual real meat of the story that we want to get to. But other than that, I think The Secret of Marrowbone is a fun film. It's definitely one I'd recommend checking out. As I say, the pacing can be a bit of a problem, but it's more than made up for with some solid performances and for what I think is a particularly good ending. I won't talk about the ending, but there are questions that I had after it that made me think, does it really hold up to scrutiny? But it certainly made it a film that I want to see again. I want to watch it one more time and see if all the pieces do fit together. I'm going to give The Secret of Marrowbone an 8 out of 10. Have you seen this film yet? If so, let me know what you think about it in the comments below. You can like and subscribe if you want to. That'd be nice. You can also follow me on Twitter at JoePJulians. There will be other movie reviews coming soon. Mission Impossible's coming out in a couple of weeks. I'm really excited to watch that. I may even do a review of all of the other films up to now, because I do kind of want to watch them again before the new one comes out. So look out for that on the way. But yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.